Hello, lovelies. My name's Feta, and welcome to Fable Academy, where adventurers old and new learn from the best, but usually the worst. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you really fucked up? Something truly embarrassing, cringeworthy, a memory that keeps you awake at night, grimacing in shame at your own incompetence. And the one saving grace you have left is that nobody was around to see what an idiot you made of yourself? Well, in this day and age, you know it's not that simple anymore. Everyone's carrying a camera and everyone's got a channel with its own audience, ready to gobble up some more of that sweet, sweet content. But I swear I'm one of the good ones. These days, it seems like nobody starts a new game without considering the possibility of putting it up on the internet for the masses to see. Yeah, we all got obsessed with Critical Role and everyone trying to be the next Critical Role during COVID, but no one anticipated that sparking a whole generation of wannabe Matt Mercers and Brennan Lee Mulligans, broadcasting their otherwise intimate tables' awkward, camera-shy exploits live on Twitch for the whole world to see in all its unedited glory. Actual plays are everywhere these days, and I should know, I'm considering making one of my own. And they're a lot of fun, absolutely, but we're all different people on camera, and sometimes that other side of us is not our nicest angle. Tonight's story is one such example, as I genuinely believe half the stuff that happens here would be a lot less off if the DM wasn't trying to make the game interesting for their audience rather than for their players. This story is by Skeletor301. Had a DM with extreme main character syndrome and boundary issues. Content warnings. Antipathy. Crossing in-game boundaries. Main character syndrome. Drama. I was, and still am, part of a table who had a particularly awful DM that we've since cut ties with. It is a game set in Exandria and the chosen system is 5e. The DM got a copy of Explorer's Guide to Wildmount and wanted to run the accompanying adventure found within for a set of players. For simplicity, there are 6, later 4, core players in this table. 3 players had to later drop due to story and character conflicts, and we picked up a new player near the end. This was the first time for some of us to play D&D. The main core of the party early on was a Water Genasi wizard/bard we'll just call Miss Waters, a human paladin fighter we'll call Mr. Oath, a tiefling sorcerer blood hunter we'll call Mr. Horns, a halfling ranger we'll call Mrs. Spears, an Eladrin elf druid we'll call Miss Colors, and a human sorcerer I played we'll call Mr. Cards. These are placeholder names, not actual character names as per the subreddit rules. There were 2 other players who quit very early due to life issues, not listing them beyond mention because of minor relevance. It's also relevant to note that these were live-streamed games, this detail of which will become important later in the story. It's worth keeping in mind that this is from my perspective, a single player in the group, and not every incident was witnessed by me. The start of the adventure went off fairly well. We made it a couple of sessions in with little conflict outside of staging a mutiny. Due to some real bad history Miss Waters and Mr. Horns had with the captain basically being a pirate and mistreating them, we planned out a mutiny and killed the captain. We managed to succeed, and we'd end the second session as successful murder hobos headed to a tropical island for some supplies and to enjoy the beach. Third session is where things started to take a turn with the DM, from some minor things that were strange to starting to push the limits of our comfort. We went to have a beach episode. We needed swimwear, so we went to buy some. The DM then mentioned that the shopkeeper seemed to find the charismatic and suave man that is Mr. Cards, me, attractive. And with a bit of prompting from Miss Colors to try and land us a discount, we decided the best thing to do was to push this a bit further. The DM had the shopkeeper join me in the dressing room and proceeded to give Mr. Cards a lap dance in his underwear. I regretted having Mr. Cards in a Speedo. As if to add a little more salt in the wound, the DM decided that Mr. Cards started to itch. And I immediately cast Lesser Restoration, given by subclass, which she chuckled and said it was just poison ivy. Incidents after this involved a Sahagin attack and the island falling apart. The DM thought it was a good idea to put a 10-minute timer on 7 players in initiative with 6 Sahagin attacking us to escape before the island fell into the sea. Hopefully, many of you can see the major issue with this. After the session, the 2 players I mentioned left at this point for life reasons, and we were down to 5. After this, we did have a few decently well sessions. We went to an island which had a devil's carnival on it, and we found our characters having to deal with afflictions tied to one of the 7 deadly sins. It was pretty neat, and the Resident Evil inspired monsters certainly sold the nightmare. Things went alright until the mini-boss, which was the ringmaster in a cavern we found in the island's volcano. We weathered him down to near bloody, and as a desperate Hail Mary, the DM had the ringmaster use Meteor Swarm on almost the entire party. For those who don't know, that's a 9th level evocation spell she just threw at 5 level 4s. Thankfully, with help from the lucky feat, I barely counterspelled it. Mr. Card's smart mouth got him into trouble though, as he responded to the successful counterspell by taunting the ringmaster with a "Aw, baby, what happened?" DM decidedly used a legendary action at the end of the ringmaster's turn to cast a 7th level magic missile, which was an immediate death. We, the players, definitely had words about balance after the session. Fast forward to one hell of a lucky divine intervention from my temporary cleric I rolled up. He was trying to help make his new friends not feel as bad with a nice gesture. Mr. Cards ended up revived by Oberon without a soul due to story reasons. DM decided what fun it would be if Mr. Cards only lived on temp HP at any given time due to being a hollow one, and each short rest that temp HP would recover to 10. Healing potions and spells don't work, only spells and abilities which grant temp HP, which the DM graciously allowed to stack for Mr. Cards. She also gave Mr. Cards a nuke ability, which was I could expend all my temp HP and cause that much damage to all creatures in a 10-foot radius of him, which, yes, instantly downs him. I obviously opted not to use this. The DM also opted to limit my Sorcerer subclass abilities, which we homebrewed from a Clockwork Soul subclass, making it more card and gambling themed, hence Mr. Cards. I only got some of my ability back from Oberon, giving him a special deck of enchanted mithril playing cards that could be used as daggers and a magic focus. Which, yes, I did mix in a bit of Gambit from X-Men into the character idea with this. Now, it's worth noting that I made it clear that I didn't want to rush into my character's story, and I was okay with letting other players do their story. But with the death and sudden soulless nature, Mr. Cards got boosted to the front because the players wanted to fix the whole Hollow One shenanigans the DM had put on me. During this time, we had 2 more players drop for story reasons. Mrs. Spears was returned home, and Mr. Horns had a falling out with the party in-game. The DM was also showing more of her colours with each of us individually, like telling Miss Waters' player privately that she was being a spotlight hog, which made her self-conscious, telling other players behind my back that I chose to not be part of the next campaign, which I never said. She kept most of the players busy with combat for most of the sessions, and we found out that she gets bored when we roleplay because she's not involved. So her solution is to throw a pack of wolves when we'd start chatting for too long around the nighttime campfire, or more Sahagin at night when we'd be sailing. My personal favourite was when we were leaving a town to head to the next and we started chatting about the plan, she threw a rock at us. At that point, I was tired of constantly fighting half the time, so I had Mr. Cards taunt the rock and get it to swoop towards him and make it crash into a wall of force. The DM started playing with some meta knowledge after that, like when Miss Waters wanted to hold an action that required an enemy to come within 60 feet of her, the DM would acknowledge and then kept every enemy out of the 60-foot range, wasting Miss Waters' turn. She barely asked for any skill checks, even when we were giving clear signs we wanted to do an ability or use a skill, like deception to lie to an NPC, or investigation when we'd asked to look for something and getting, yeah, you do or don't see it. We finally get to a point in the story where we exchanged favours with one of Mr. Card's underground contacts within the Myriad. We were to attend a ball and watch over King Dwendal, who was attending. We got excited and decided we would get outfits for the ball and came up with some ballroom designs for the event. Part of this mission, Mr. Cards, with the aid of Miss Waters, went to speak with the hostess of the ball, posing as distant nobles from Taldore. We were to gather some information about the event, which Miss Waters didn't have much faith in the deception, so she almost immediately dropped the act, which instantly put suspicion on Mr. Cards. And then before I knew it, the DM had the hostess arguing with Miss Waters while constantly casting spells at Mr. Cards to hold him in place, not letting me get a word or action in at all. We had a prompt discussion during break about player agency and letting players actually do something, instead of rattling off for 2 to 3 solid minutes spell after spell, not letting players do anything in response. Thankfully, the DM agreed to a redo because I was essentially railroaded into submission. We got the info, prepped, and went to the ball, which, BTW, was its own disaster as the DM got bored as soon as the ball started and we barely got to the floor. A couple of us started ballroom dancing and then immediately spotted one of the patrons suddenly turned into stone. Sorhas burrowed deep into the territory with purple worms and attacked the ball from the ground in an attempt to attack King Dwendal. We ended the session soon after saving the king, and once again had to have a discussion about letting players play a bit as we barely got to enjoy the ball before all hell broke loose. As you can imagine, the characters never really got a chance to just take a break and chat. It literally took the DM falling asleep in her chair one session for us to get to roleplay our characters actually getting to know each other over pints at a tavern. We opened up for a solid 4 to 5 hours. This did not sit well with the DM, starting to use woe is me tactics to make us feel bad about her being a bad DM. Saying things like, well, if the only time you guys have fun was without me, clearly I'm not a good DM. Which, at that point, we were still holding on to hope and tried to offer advice so she could be more involved with the scene that didn't involve constant combat. She basically took this as more criticism, and we later would find out that she would use these examples as ways to get people to believe we were bullying her. Pretty soon, things would come to a head as she brought in 2 more players, a Pallid Elf Warlock Bard we'll name Miss Royal, and a Changeling Paladin Fighter in Elf disguise we'll name Miss Change. We would later find out that the DM wanted to bring these 2 into the game so she could have people on her side and essentially show how mean her players are. While we were basically being appraised by these 2 new players, the DM continued to show her colours by doing more unfair things. Some instances were things like when we were in an underground cult den and while investigating, Mr. Cards wanted to investigate a bookshelf belonging to the cult leader, and he was only allowed to go look at the shelves. Meanwhile, every other player was able to investigate more things around the chamber with much more agency. When I spoke up saying that there was something I wanted to do with the bookshelf, I was basically told that I already took my turn in this room and I couldn't, so we needed to move on. There was another incident when we were investigating a hag in some sewers. Mr. Cards wanted to hold an action as we approached the opening to the room. We approached and the action wasn't triggered as we went into initiative. I was told I didn't have an action on my first turn because I held an action in the hall when we were approaching. She also got on my case for wanting to use the help action to give a player advantage on a skill check when the player was about to do something, and I was told this was the player's thing, not mine. Then let other players start to do things to help this player after they failed. Thankfully, Miss Royal's player saw through the DM's lies when Miss Royal heard me out on some of the issues as they happened, and agreed the DM wasn't being fair. Finally, the other shoe dropped and we had enough of the DM and her antics. We collectively, minus Miss Change, decided to separate ourselves from her and take the game with us, ousting her from the group altogether. Miss Change was on the fence about us up until this point. When the DM got upset we were taking the game with us, decided to tell Miss Change we were talking behind the DM's back while we were ironing out the details of transferring away from the DM. This prompted Miss Change to barge in and berate us for being immature, and things got very heated between us and Miss Change. So, ultimately, sadly, Miss Change went with the DM for all of about a week after we split from them. After we transferred everything we could and ironed out the details, we ended up having the player for Miss Waters and I take on the roles of co-DMs for the game. She agreed to basically become the primary DM for the game, and I would take the reins and DM when the story focused on her character. We're still going strong about 4 to 5 years later now, essentially expanding the group to a semi-private D&D community. 69 members currently. Nice. Filled with other refugees of our ex-DM and friends who wanted a place to play. So this story has a happy ending, but it was such a stressful couple of years, and I'm fairly certain I developed anxiety because of her. I don't know how to really end something like this, so hope you'll enjoy what you can. Oh, right, the cherry on top that I promised, the DM's decision to stream the game. We found out pretty much early-ish on a big reason why the DM wanted to stream was so that she could not only generate ad revenue, but put on her resume that she successfully was running a D&D stream on Twitch. That's not the worst of it. She prioritized engagement with the audience no matter what was happening in the game. We got a raid? Pause the game and introduce yourselves everyone to the raiders. Someone redeemed the punishment dice? Cool. Rolls. Next session we're having a Freaky Friday episode. We did continue streaming the game on a different channel, and we basically only kept the non-invasive redeems like an audience member giving someone a healing charity or an inspiration dice. Or redeem a mimic encounter, which could happen sometime within the next couple of sessions. Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. Like I said before, this seems like the DM was prioritizing the audience experience over the players and the game, which may make sense on the surface, but that's not why people watch actual plays. In an era where it seems like more and more popular actual plays are getting fully produced adaptations that streamline everything for the animation audience, it seems obvious that people who want to watch people play D&D want to watch people play D&D. Including all the slow, non-combat parts between all the high-octane combat and heavy-stakes plot devices. And again, as the DM, your priority should always be your players, not your audience. OP and the rest of this table put up with a lot from this DM, and while I still fully believe things may have been better if they weren't streaming it the whole time, there were so many moments where I had to pause and wonder why this person wanted to run a D&D campaign in the first place. Well, I guess to make money and put it on a resume. Case closed. I hope the resume wasn't to be a professional DM though, since it seems like they don't actually enjoy it. If they're falling asleep at the desk for 4 to 5 hours and that's the only time the players get to actually roleplay, then I have to wonder why this person was doing this at all. You don't do a hobby if it bores you to sleep. But at the end of the day, it does seem like this story ended up with a justifiably happy ending. As hardcore as it may be, this table earned the right to take this game and their characters with them, and it seems like it's in 2 very competent DMs' hands now. And part of me hopes that this table, and by extension its new audience, are having a much better time now. But that's just my thoughts on this story. What do you folks think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again real soon for our next lesson in Fable Academy.